Britain still fails to recycle almost all of its plastic waste, but a major government initiative means that could change over the next 4 years. Until now, the UK has struggled to recycle plastic waste, but that could soon change. In 2014, Britain produced 4.9 million tons of plastic waste. Two-thirds of it, 67%, was packaging, and only 1.2 million tons, 24%, of that waste was recycled, according to a report last year by the World Wildlife Fund. The WWF estimates that since then the situation has improved only slightly, with the nation, perhaps recycling a little under a third of its waste. However, things should improve over the next 4 years, says Dr. Adam Reed, Director of External Affairs at Suez Recycling. You've got heightened public awareness like we've never seen before. While some supermarkets are reducing their use of plastics, the best option will be improved sorting of recycling that allow businesses to use a full variety of packaging colors. The appetite for recycling among UK citizens is not likely to be the problem. It's the fact that people are often confused about what they can recycle and how they can do it, which is not surprising. Local authority collections vary widely in identifying plastic types, and what can and cannot go into a recycling box often feels like it demands a degree in chemistry. The sheer variety of plastics in our daily lives further complicates matters. Clear water bottles are typically made from polyethylene terephthalate, PET, and readily recycled. Polypropylene is often used for food packaging and is also recyclable, as are some forms of polyethylene, the most common plastic. Other plastics such as polyvinyl chloride (PVC), used to make everything from doors and windows to bank cards, are fundamentally hard to recycle or simply prove difficult to manipulate into new products at low cost. Meat or fruit trays and punnets have often been made of black crystallized polyethylene terephthalate (CPET), and are not recyclable. This is not because of their chemical composition, but because many sorting machines at waste centers cannot detect black items. While some supermarkets are now reducing their use of these plastics, the best option will be improved sorting of recycling that allow businesses to use a full variety of packaging colors. To improve the recyclability of plastics, the FMCG giant Procter The aim is to develop traces and watermarks such as fluorescent pigments that are only visible under ultraviolet light, which will allow recycling machinery to easily identify each piece of plastic and sort it accordingly. Such approaches will need to be standardized across the industry, and collaboration and partnerships will be crucial to make that happen. Succeeding would be a big step towards recycling or reusing the vast majority of plastics, something encouraged by the Ellen MacArthur Foundation in its New Plastics Economy initiative aimed towards a circular economy with greater reuse and recycling. The UK's strategy. There was good news last December when Environment Secretary Michael Gove announced a new resources and waste strategy that outlines sweeping changes for how the UK deals with plastic waste. For the first time in probably a decade, most of us in the sector would say we like the direction of travel, says Dr. Reed. He calls it the biggest single shake-up since the Landfill Directive, which was agreed by the EU in 1999 and ensured certain wastes were recycled. One key problem Mr. Gove has identified is that there is not much of a market in Europe for plastic waste, which has until recently been exported to China, and latterly Malaysia, where it represents a cheap raw material for manufacturers. New approach. The resources and waste strategy outlines sweeping changes. Credit Getty. One solution is to improve recycling, so that recycled plastic is the same quality as virgin plastic. Such schemes have major backers from operators in the global plastics chain. The UK government is also consulting on taxing manufacturers that use plastic packaging, unless it is made from at least 30% recycled material. Some companies are already moving in this direction. The tax will mean companies will need to increase the amount of recycled plastic they use. Some brands will move to a system where they simply lease consumers the packaging, says Dr. Reed, and indeed, deposit schemes such as Loop offer great promise and high-profile backers. The UK government is also currently consulting on changes to the current Extended Producer Responsibility (EPR) scheme, where proposed changes will see manufacturers take responsibility for the life cycle of their products and packaging and pay the full cost of recycling or disposal of their packaging waste. The hope is that the changes will incentivize producers to consider reducing packaging and switch to formats that are easier to recycle. Positive change with robust efforts on the part of plastics producers backed by government intervention. The final step is to make recycling less confusing for consumers, which means changing how products are labeled. Plastic packaging, often used on food, has a label which says, "can be recycled, check locally." Of course, most of us don't feel we have the time to do this, so the plastic gets thrown out with household waste. For Helen Bird of Wrap UK, the recycling labelling must be as simple as possible and ensure that all plastics can be either recyclable, reusable or compostable. How to help with plastic waste. The signatories to the UK Plastics Pact are aiming to achieve that by 2025. If the recycling infrastructure is also ready, there will not be any more agonizing over different kinds of plastic. You will be able to put it all in the recycling bin and be confident that it will be handled correctly. Major, joined-up initiatives are making their way through government, and there are encouraging signs in the UK and Europe with the EU's Circular Economy Package, announced last year, which aims to ensure all plastic packaging is recyclable by 2030. It will take a few years to figure out the details of such significant proposals, says Dr. Reed, but the pieces are moving and a growing collaboration of public, private and governmental minds is a sign that new ideas about plastic waste are widely taking root. The government's proposed timetable has 2023 as the year that many of the changes will come into effect. That's when we're also expecting to see deposit return schemes on street corners and supermarkets, says Dr. Reed. For those of us saddened by the continued presence of plastic in our countryside, rivers and on our shores, that change cannot come soon enough. Encouraging action on plastic waste. Ocean plastic is a scourge upon sea life and shoreline communities. From bags choking turtles and whales to the microplastics within seafood, our seas demand urgent change. The Telegraph and Proctor. To find out more, visit tgr.ph/png.